second of the main topics that I want to talk about today is compound intervals. We've talked so far about intervals up to the octave. Well, what happens when you get a larger interval than an octave? You can keep on counting the same way. If this is 8, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's some kind of a ninth. So there's the octave, D to D. There's D to E. Now, because of octave equivalence, that ninth sounds a whole lot like that second from D to E. Second, ninth, okay? So we're going to name the same way that this would be if this had been an octave lower, it would have been a major second. So we're going to give it the same quality. We're going to call it a major ninth. Now, because we hear intervals larger than the octave in relation to intervals within the octave because of octave equivalence, I can also give it another name. I can call it a compound major second. And I'll abbreviate that with a big C. So compound major second. So on you go, other commonly ones, that would be a compound minor third, also known as a minor tenth. Okay? Now, up through tenths, you should have pretty fluently. You should, if somebody says tenth, you should know what a tenth is. A tenth is a compound third. Beyond that, if you, hopefully 11th, maybe 12th, but anything above that, you just talk about compound intervals. And if there are multiple octaves involved, you talk about compound intervals. So for example, this is a compound perfect fourth with 2 extra octaves thrown in, okay? But it's still, you'd still just call this a compound perfect fourth. So in this way, you really don't, above 2 octaves, you really give up numbering intervals without compound indication. So for example, if I told you, go to the piano please and play me a perfect 45th, I just made that up. I don't even know if a 45th is an interval that can be perfect. Maybe it can only be major or minor. Nobody deals with these things, okay? So once you get to 2 octaves, that's really the limit. People are always talking about compound intervals. And in practice, I'd say the 12th, occasionally the 13th, which is the 6th, is as far as you go. I don't think you ever hear people talking about 14ths or 15ths even, really. But you should know, absolutely, 9ths and 10ths you should be familiar with, and you should know how the system works. Now, here's what I was going to say before, and I realized you didn't have this concept. Your worksheets may occasionally ask you for the inversion of a compound interval. And I don't understand what that means, because if I take this lower note and I pop it up by an octave, it's still a kind of a third. So if you're asked for, at least the way I do it, and maybe your own instructor wants something different, so check with them. Maybe there's something I missed somewhere along the line. But the way I do it, at least, if you get this question that I don't understand of what's the inversion of a compound minor third, I would have as the answer the same thing as a regular minor third, namely a major sixth. That's the best way I have of making sense of that question.